Now, my guest today is one fascinating individual in all aspects of life, and most importantly, in the storytelling and art communities. This man is so talented, so delightful to be around, and such a great time and vibe. And I really, really had a goal in mind at one point to have this man part of my show because he's so fascinating. So let's start another classic episode. Let's start another classic podcast with a legendary guest. Alex Ranniello's part is here, and welcome to the Productive Conversations podcast, Alex. What's up, buddy?
Hey, man. Thanks for having me.
Oh, man, thanks for being here, Alex. Seriously, you and I met at the University of Hartford, and from the start, I knew how fascinating of an individual you are, and you're especially an individual. And I can't wait to show off how much of an individual you are. So, starting with everything, man, I just want to know, how have you been? How has the beginning of a year started? Already 5 months in. How's life been for you? Talk to me. What's going on?
Yeah, man. 2021's kicked off pretty good. Last year was chaotic for everybody, I'm sure. Same for myself as well. I was finishing my master's at UHeart in the communication school and working, 60-hour weeks. So things were a little hectic,
Mm.
but nice little turnaround this year. I've been, predicating more of my time on my art and, my artist collective and, collaborating with some local businesses and a lot of other grassroots organizations. So it's been productive thus far, man. I can't ask for any more.
That's what I love to hear, Alex. Absolutely love to hear. So before we get into the Going Places Art Collective, which Alex is a co-founder of, and we're going to be very interesting. I'm very interested to hear about that entire story as well as the
Right.
audience. But talk to me first. Like I said, you're an artist, plain and simple, and a very talented one at that. First, can you just talk to me about your brand as your own personal brand as an artist? What you specifically do in terms of art, whether it's a painting or illustrating or animation.
Right.
Talk to me about what the Alex Ranniello brand is as an artist.
So the brand itself in concept is it's called the Alexander California brand, and really it's just kind of culminating a lifestyle. So when you go to the shopping mall or you go to any other store, you're looking to buy an experience, and that's what the brand of my artwork is about. You want to be able to kind of capture everything that you're seeing, depending on what media that you're dispersing your content over, and really capturing it in like two or three images, two or three words, and
Mm-hmm.
and that's what I try to go for. It's just a relaxing kind of summertime vibe, lots of fun, lots of great energy, optimism, belief in yourself, believe in your community and others, and kind of just spreading that and making it infectious, to other people.
Talk to me about that optimism, especially. Like that really sticks out. And I genuinely find you as one of the most optimistic people around, even through the most difficult times. What makes you so optimistic in your life? And how do you transition that optimism into your art as you were hitting on before? If you could just expand on that, would love to hear it.
Yeah, man, it's actually a question that kind of runs deep for me, especially as of late. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, just kind of re-centralizing the questions of our time right now on the individual and how it's the individual's responsibility on the basis to improve our world around us. And if we can kind of narrow in on the answers to that question first in our own lives and then really project that out into the community, it's just going to be, like I said, an infectious energy on the rest of the world. In this culture we live in, it's very easy to play the victim across any just any part of our landscape, and to kind of take the negative opposite effect of that for good is just a great feeling, and it's really reciprocated itself in a lot of the people that I work with in my network and so on and so forth.
I really like the special word you really hit on in your answer for me was individual. And I find you are that and created an originality for that. And I feel like as we have more opportunities to create content, create art,
Mhm.
tell more stories, I feel a lot of people should really focus on, in my opinion, is creating that own image and creating that own, like I mentioned, the word brand specifically. And like whatever, our mutual friend, the great Gabe Mills, once said, you should, to me specifically, you should. I was talking about being fascinated by actor Leonardo DiCaprio, and then he said, you should really just focus on being the great Matt Brown. And that really stuck in my head, and I use it for the rest of my life. And I think that's really added to my confidence going into the world. Does that relate to you as well? Creating that individuality and being comfortable in your own brand as Alex California / Alex Ranniello?
Of course, man. Of course, man. Be better than you were yesterday than someone else is today. And that really like is something that I stick to. It's kind of a hallmark that I kind of look to every morning when I wake up and kind of get that cloudy consciousness, that, that shroud that we wake in every morning. Um, that's kind of what I, wake up to is be better than you were yesterday. Don't compare yourself to someone today. And that like is really, really big for me because it's so easy to get, caught up in how well else, excuse me, everybody else is doing, or not doing for that matter. And it's very easy to get that, in your mind and stuff and really take it other places. But to just focus on the little things that you can control every single day, those things accumulate, and they compound. And over time, if you just do that for years and years, it's going to make you a tremendously better person.
And I love to hear that answer. And I think you really instill that and prove that, Alex. And just to focus a little more on your artistry, and just for the people who are introduced to you, what type of art specifically do you go for? And maybe you'll probably hit more on this when we talk about the Artist Collective.
Mhm.
But like, are you more of a painter? Do you create murals? Do you animate? What specifically do you do? And do you have an Instagram or a place where we can find your work to see your artistry?
Perfect segue to a plug. Yeah, so my Instagram is my pretty formal grounds for my content. My my handle is AB Ranniello, so it's up there. It's on Instagram. But yeah,
We have that in the episode description as well for anyone interested.
Oh yeah. Oh
So you were saying?
yeah. Yeah, so my training back at college was oil painting. I really focus on portraiture and figure work. And then when I got out of school, I kind of, dabbled in a few other things, tried some new types of work. Right now I've been on a real mural kick. There seems to be a huge precedent for public art and,
Yeah.
a forum, really large scale forum to speak out and project out to the world during COVID and during the pandemic while people are so restricted. So I've kind of allowed that to kind of carry myself for the past year and a half now. And it's been immensely rewarding, but I do try to co-align my, my gallery work, exhibiting and showcasing and, as a working artist as well, making commissions both publicly and privately for small businesses and families alike. So
Yeah, I mean, you all have to go to that Instagram page. You should see some of the stunning murals, whether it's around the city of Hartford and West Hartford, Connecticut. I seen you do a mural once for, I believe, a medical office, if I get it correct, at some point,
um
or maybe it's elementary school. I'm trying to get the
yes,
top of my
yes.
head. That's
Elementary
what it was.
school. Yeah, the north end of Hartford. Yeah, we did Breakthrough Elementary, excuse me. That's the one.
Absolutely stunning. And as you mentioned, we're pretty much in a nice phase and era of the mural, as you mentioned. We've seen whether in the major cities, as you mentioned, as we just talked about, you've done in the Hartford community. And when you're creating these murals personally, on these large scales, on these buildings, could you briefly talk to us about how that actually comes together, as we've seen so many murals pop off everywhere in our country specifically, and all pretty much all over the world? Can you talk to us like how that process starts, how long it takes? I assume it's clearly not graffiti, so I'm sure you got permission for it, as maybe they used to back in the 70s and 80s. But how does that all come together in a large scale?
Right. Well, it has to be orchestrated by someone from the top. And luckily, I have an amazing project manager at CT Murals named Matt Conway.
Mm-hmm.
CT Murals started as the passion project underneath the Rise Up Community Group. And the Rise Up Community Group is a 501c nonprofit here in Hartford locally that has huge impact in the community, just like uplifting others through, through the arts and community co-alignment together. Um, but yeah, he's been immensely incredible Matt and his team with CT Murals, really orchestrating things, securing budget, working with local businesses and different cultural councils and coalitions across the state. The different counties across the state have been immensely helpful in generating interest and spreading word and love. And um, yeah, the typical mural takes about 6 to 8 months of preparation before we actually get our feet
Wow.
on the ground and start painting. It's a pretty lengthy process. It's a lot of communication. It's a lot of revisions and insight and open for criticism. So, but it's immensely rewarding. It's a really cool process, and every project takes on its life of its own. So, yeah.
All right, all right. And after the 6 months of planning, 6 to 8 months, and you're finally you go to we'll use a building as an example. They ask you to create a mural for.
Mhm.
How long does that process start? Do you just like go over? Do you like do you just go right away? You make your masterpiece? Do you like put do you put like do you white it out first and then you go and that takes a various amount of months? Can you walk us through the actual painting process once you get approval and your rights and everything?
Sure, yeah. So once we have, kind of all the provisions and all the preliminary work on the back end done, we'll put down, um, a clear coat or some type of primer, depending on the surface,
Mm-hmm.
uh, and really make it a workable surface. Kind of survey the landscape, kind of prep the groundwork, and then we'll start moving either our scaffolding or our scissor lifts or our boom
Mm-hmm.
lifts into the area. Kind of zone things off, section things off, and the typical mural takes about 2 to 2.5 weeks to paint. More or less like the recent three-story building I did in South Downtown District of Hartford. Um, that took about 2.5 weeks, give or take. All things considered. So it's it's funny because it's like about 6 to 8 months of preparation, behind the scenes with allocating funding and doing a lot of business to business contact. And
Mm-hmm.
then once you get painting, it's bing bang boom. It's 2 weeks.
Look at that. Look at that. And then after the 2 weeks, a nice ceremony, and then forever you make your mark wherever you put that mural. I very fascinating process. I got to tell you, and the stuff you've done in your team deserve a lot of credit for it. And does it is it cool? Just one last question on this: when you're actually doing,
Sure.
the painting of the mural, and like whether you're sketching something out or you're painting in the characters being featured, how does it feel? Like those cool moments, you must turn around and say, "Whoa, look at what I'm doing." Is there any feelings of that happen?
Well, it's funny because throughout the process, there's a lot of little chaotic elements that kind of appear out of nowhere, and you kind of have to learn how to um, micromanage them and kind of problem solve on the fly. So it's very important to be, modest and
Mm-hmm.
humble through the process. It's You kind of have to swallow your pride and be unafraid to reach out to people within a moment's notice, for advice on, certain specificities like that. So I don't know how to really answer your question better than that, but I think that
That's a
my
solid
best
answer.
advice for any artists getting into murals or people that are just at their early mid-career artists, really be humble through the process. Take every project as its own, like you've never experienced it before.
I love it. I love it. Thank you for sharing that, Alex. Now let's get into your awesome endeavor you're doing now. So, Alex is not only an artist, he's an entrepreneur. He's a businessman. And with a few other artists, local artists in the state of Connecticut, Alex co-founded the Going Places Art Collective. Alex, talk to us, break us down, tell the audience what the Going Places Art Collective is as a whole, and what's your role in it besides being one of the co-founders, and how has it been since you found this organization?
Sure, sure. So the Going Places Art Collective we founded back in 2018. This is the first year that we're up in emergence towards attaining nonprofit status. So
All right.
right now we're really taking the initiative and you know the the steps necessitated for that. But we're really about three things essentially: opportunity, empowerment, and development. Opportunity in terms of generating sustainable opportunities that are paid and rewarding for artists across the Connecticut tri-state area. to showcase their work, to sell their work in all different environments and settings, um, empowering them to continue to keep creating, collaborating with them on public initiatives and projects such as the murals that I've been doing, and then development, working with other, organizations and businesses, collaborating with them to orchestrate events similar to what we do. So as a collective, our primary goal you know, is to rise up and uplift all these artists in the Connecticut tri-state area. And that means performers, musicians, local businesses, so on and so forth, and kind of create sustainable opportunities um, that can be reciprocated for years and years, and kind of creating the network that is so, heavily needed and desired in our state, that New York and Boston and other neighboring, cities and states really have. So that's been immensely rewarding. When COVID hit last year, we took a backseat to kind of do a lot of internal revisions, building our website, kind of rebranding, shifting, pivoting of our access and stuff. But we're in a great spot right now. We have a show coming up in October with in collaboration with the Firm Art Gallery down in Bridgeport. Brand new
Oh
gallery
yeah.
starting up in Bridgeport, and the Rise of Community Group, like I mentioned earlier. Matt Conway's been super instrumental. So the three us three, our entities are going to be collaborating for a live local art event down there in October, and
Yeah.
outside of that, we're just doing a lot of online advocacy. Sharing and promoting artists. Dispersing and distributing, COVID resources related to, artist empowerment, and making sure that they have the resources necessary to keep their studio practice intact and continue to keep creating opportunities coming in and out for them. So it's been a huge, rewarding process. I've met, maybe 1,000 people since we've started it across our state. And we've just got an overwhelming amount of positive feedback from people that have been involved so far.
That's very inspiring, Alex. And that's very kind that you are showcasing these artists, that you and your team are doing for that. And we greatly appreciate people like you who've done it. And may I ask, where does this generosity come from to showcase these artists? You don't necessarily have to do it, but your kind soul and the other people have is showing it and living the pass it on mantra, I assume. Just talk to me about where's that kindness comes from to take the time to showcase all of these talented men, women, and people.
Yeah, I mean, I can only speak for myself in terms of where that manifested for me, but I felt like there was a huge, desire, kind of burning from the time I was in high school to the time that we were at college together,
Mhm.
especially in the artist community. It felt like there was a real disconnect, and there was a real, um, uh, like shark infested water kind of mentality of
Yeah.
the artist kind of, claiming, ownership over, certain environments and certain opportunities. And it didn't feel like the right environment that I wanted to continue my art practice, and sustain myself in. And it felt too insular. It felt like a lot of the other subcultures and communities across Connecticut weren't accurately represented, that were just as creative as the artists in the fine art community, and the craft art culture community that's
Hmm.
at a different level as well. So like, like the brewery industry and the skate community and all these
Yeah.
different, subsections that have amazing, creative potential, and, outwardly express that on a day-to-day basis. They needed an outlet for themselves too. And that kind of infused itself into our process in creating the artist collective. And it's been amazing how many people we've been able to reach. But I just felt that if I was going to stay in Connecticut for the long haul and continue my, my art, my passion and my career, I needed to have an environment that was going to be sustainable and, environmentally friendly for the rest of the artists here in Connecticut as well.
That's really that's really kind for you to say that and to keep other people's in mind. And it just shows how great of a person you are for that. And I think you and I really connect on showcasing people's talents and really making them believe in themselves. I think that's one, whether it's through, content creation, art, whether it's trying to start a business or being a musician. I feel like there are always that type of people like you and me, you and I, who will do whatever it takes to create these crazy ideas and make a career out of it, and having the patience to do that as well. And I find so many people don't do that with that talent. And, they, whether they want to do a more secure career path, there's nothing wrong with that. Do whatever you want to make yourself more comfortable in this life. But don't you really agree how much more we should emphasize on the risk taking?
Mm-hmm.
You really could, especially in the 2020s. And I get it. This world is a headache, but there
Right.
really genuinely is decent people out there. I really believe that. Now, I'm not saying don't have to bend over backwards for every single stranger in your life, but you can at least show that encouragement and show that you can make things possible in this world. What do you think we could do, Alex, to really emphasize that? And that's one of the reasons why I also created this show. Is my idea of it is the Tonight Show and Joe Rogan combined for the regular person. I can interview celebrities. I really hope to someday eventually, even that's many years down the road.
Right.
But, especially when I listen to podcasts, and I really show that everyone really have so many similar stories, and that status is just a status. It's really just a thing. Everyone's just a regular person. At the end of the day, even people with the highest influence and powers, they're all just a human at the end of the day. What could we do to really show that you could really make some of yourselves and take the risk, and use that whether it's that young years we have to our advantage, but you really could be successful later on in your life with whatever you want to do. What do you think we could do to help emphasize that stuff and have people reach their potential?
Yeah, well, potential is the key word. I mean, that's something I've wrestled with since I was in grad school, last year and the year before. It's the central thesis to the theoretical question at hand, with people who believe in individualism and people on that track that are driven as much as you and I are, and other creatives as much as well. It's about, I think my biggest thing is, how can you spark that aim? How can you restructure someone's aim so that they can see where they're headed and where they want to go? Because like you said, everybody's individual and a human to an extent, but it's how can you unmask that potential? How can you how can you harbor that in a positive way? How can you manifest that for better? And kind of unlocking that potential just comes back to the individual's aim. It's like, where do you want to go? How much responsibility do you want to bear? Do you want to burden? And how much do you want to carry with you, for the future? Because we're in the golden age of creative content, man. It's amazing how much the technology has, shifted the paradigm in the past 10 years. And I think with the unlocking of podcasting, you notice that people have such a burning desire to just learn. I mean, and I don't mean academic learn from a textbook where it's so isolated from human contact interaction, but like just learning. I mean, it's amazing. I can't remember who I was talking to this about. It was another artist when we were wrapping up the work on the mural a couple weeks back. But it's amazing when you really think about, you part and parcel, how much free time people have or don't have. And now with the invention of podcasts, it's like you can multitask like you never could before, the way you would when you read a book. Because when you read a book, you had all your focus and energy into reading everything on a page, left to right. And now it's like you can read, you can multitask, but people could use that found time, whether it's half an hour or 3 hours a day, to learn. And I think that people are kind of rediscovering their potentiality with that, and they're kind of at a crossroads where they can really act on it. And I think that's why there's so much of an optimistic, resurgence in a lot of people at an individual level right now.
Dude, amen to that. I mean, honestly, the podcast, what brings us together is it's really my favorite. It's the one thing that really changed my life for the whole, especially for what I want to do with my career. Like, I could still be a great podcaster while still pursuing my career production. You can name the hundreds of actors who do it, the producers, the comedians who've made the realm, and everyone of all walks of life. What's so great is I can pursue this while still pursuing my ultimate passion in to be a producer. And listen to the podcast and hear these stories. The ones in particular, I don't know if you're familiar with What the Fuck with Mark Maron. Like, that changed everything.
I love Mark Maron's podcast.
Dude, I mean, I have them on the wall of my main podcast right here.
Oh, you got Stern up there. You got Bill Simmons.
Oh yeah, got great David Letterman on
You got
this side.
the heavy hitters, man.
Yeah, it's just being surrounded by the people who inspire me while creating my own individual for that. And that's why I have this entire wall and this entire space with that. So yeah, that podcast changed my life for the good. Now, Howard Stern is the big one that started it all and made me love the medium. But Mark Maron's podcast, I mean, he has any relevant figure over since like for the last decade. I mean,
Yeah.
sitting President Obama, Leo and Brad Pitt, from Nicole Kidman or whatever. And you, like I said, all these famous people from all walks of life, and you hear their entire, and it's an origin story podcast, is what it is.
Yep.
And when I heard all these stories, like, wow, these people are in similar positions. I mean, I started listening to his podcasts at the end of high school. That's what made me first pursue just getting through my career in production. And then obviously when things changed, it still took me. The one thing that got me through the pandemic was the podcast. When I heard things were shutting down, all I heard was, "I please have my podcasters continue to make work," and they did it. That, and then I joined the crew, the this industry in October. But like you said, the podcast is a thing where you can most importantly learn things, get genuine information, and also just assure that passion. And hence why productive conversations, that's what I see a podcast, a productive conversation, even the silly ones when Howard
And
Stern has. Yeah, you're saying.
and exchanging, viewpoints, because I think
Yeah.
the important differentiating factor, especially with Marin's podcast, that I find so, so profound. I mean, and with Rogan especially too, is that he's diversifying, his perception about, or his stance on a lot of different topical issues. Like Marin's not beholden to just interviewing comics. He's talking to
Yeah.
politicians. He's talking to psychoanalysts. He's talking to um, actors and activists. It's like it's a huge broad spectrum, and I think that people really need to kind of, I mean, they've already been doing it, but I think they need to continue to kind of take in all the, absorb all people's perspectives and personalities, and really make judgment calls for the future, in accordance to that. I really just taking as much information in, because that's the way I approach anything in my life. Is I'm constantly seeking new information to kind of guide myself for the day after that. So
Yeah, that's exactly what I do, the exact same thing. And I try to soak up as much information while using those people skills and professional skills to enhance myself as a person. And thanks to the podcasting community, and most importantly, people like you, and encouraging to have that drive for it. It just is the best of both worlds. And we really can make something out of ourselves. Just have the patience and not be afraid of rejection, and it will happen one way or the other. And going back to the artist collective, and like I said, encouraging and showcasing the potential of all these great artists in our area. Talk to me about how you find these artists, whether through submissions, whether through suggestions. And if there's an artist out there who's talented, and I know there is in this amazing audience, the Productive Conversations audience, where could they present your work to show their talents?
So a lot of the work we do on a day-to-day basis is usually through organic reach on social media. So we'll follow certain hashtags that are predicated, geographically on Connecticut, the Connecticut, different business models, and the locales where there's a lot of creative content coming out of New Haven and Hartford and so on and so forth. And then the other exchange in terms of bringing in new artists is word of mouth. So a lot of the legwork does takes on a life of its own in terms of other artists reaching out to other artists, on behalf of our collective, and saying, hey, there's this great little community, this little niche up in Hartford, and they're doing some great work for the community. If you want to be showcased and promote your work, they're a great catalyst in the community. So a lot of the work has kind of taken on a life of its own. It feels like a lot of the other artists that were at the beginning with us in 2018 have become my hands, so to speak, which has been great. Kind of sending out the positive waves of what we are trying to accomplish here, and um, and yeah, I think I think that's the most important thing, is just kind of constantly being in conversation with the community, because we need to know what they want as much as we want, in order for things to work. We want it to really
Definitely.
be a symbiotic relationship.
Let me ask you, as we mentioned, both you have a business background and artist background. I believe you also, not only for grad school for art, but is it an MBA or is it communications or business background as well? You went for grad school, dual grad
Right.
degree.
So I got my bachelor's in the fine arts. So I got a painting and drawing bachelor's degree with a focus in art history and ceramics as well. But that's minutia. My master's was in marketing and advertising, and I don't know if for better or worse if this is a good segue or not, but my focus was primarily predicated on men's health and retail,
Mhm.
in terms of applicability with my degree in the master's program. So I did get a master's in communications at University of Hartford last year, and most of my work around my thesis was masculinity in art and how that transfers to the creative content that's imbued within retail um, and men's health, in terms of
Yeah.
in terms of practical advertising. So it's kind of a multi-layered concept in terms of how it manifests itself, but it's very relevant to, I think, a lot of the original discussions that we had at the beginning of the podcast, in terms of like individualism and men today really trying to empower themselves through responsibility and positive motivation in the community.
Yeah, that's like how does, if I'm getting this right, it's almost like what you were working on and seeing, like looking to advertise, how does this one look get you to invest in their retail? Like one thing I've learned, and with loving with and falling in love with films, is how much beyond the acting, how much the feel of production design or art direction or color correction and post really creates the feel that you're supposed to understand the characters are going through and putting you in that world. Was that something similar to what you were learning about?
Yeah, I mean, those are a lot of the logistical things that are done, in the world of advertising and marketing. For me, I was kind of really, trying to, work up close and step back from, retail and then the marketing industry, and kind of look at how much, like the online world, and how a lot of these small companies were able to grow and transform, predicated on different differentiation tactics in terms of how to understand the prototypical man, well, not man, but any consumer, so male or female for that matter, across um um different fields. So it's kind of hard to explain in a nutshell, but I think that the marketing industry now is so widespread, and there's so many specific nodes of creating products and content
Mhm.
nowadays, that it's really easy to kind of hone in on an archetypal kind of character that you can kind of learn to understand on a second level of marketing.
All right, all right. I like it. I like it. So you have the art skills, you have the business skills, you have the marketing skills. How do you use all these skills together to create the person you are, and Alex Ranniello? How do you use, especially as we've been getting to know about your artistry background, and you hit on your marketing background, but how do you also use those skills and entrepreneurial skills to make the person you are today, Alex?
Yeah, so I kind of just continue to keep looking, every few months at how the market's changing, how art's being applied in public spaces and gallery settings, how it's being sold for better or worse, at a micro and macro scale across the country, and kind of, making, renditions of my business model to kind of respond to that. Um, and I'm kind of, injecting and imbuing some of that into the going places, model as well, in terms of how
Yeah.
we reach out to other people and how we create sustainable opportunities for them too.
Look at that. And like I said, that's what makes the original, like I said, the first word brought up, the brand of Alex Ranniello. And it's just showing the risks you take, the being very cognizant and aware. and being woke around what your surroundings as well. And just a few more things before we switch into other topics. I was just wondering, what are some of the other challenges, whether that you have an artist has faced or the going places has faced in recent times, and how have you been able to overcome those obstacles that haven't been mentioned already?
Sure. Yeah, I mean, it's kind of an everyday occurrence. It's first of all, for some people, for some of the artists that are at really early stages coming out of school, or just don't have the confidence in themselves to get going, or get kickstarted, it's just kind of recognizing that it is a gig economy and that you're fighting for every day. You're not guaranteed a 9 to 5. There's no health insurance, there's no guarantees of the modern, the everyday worker, the average Joe, going to work. So it's understanding that you need to have that focus every single day from 6 in the morning to 10 o'clock at night, and just making it your lifestyle, not really thinking about it as your job, as your lifestyle. And as soon as you can kind of reconcile that, it's all downhill from there. And
Mhm.
I think a lot of people in my close circle are, kind of, they've already been kind of living that mantra and noticing that. And I think for any artist coming up now, my biggest my biggest piece of advice is really, really, embed yourself in the community. Uh, make peace with as many people as you can. Not everybody's going to like you, but really try to expand your community as far as possible, because you can't do it alone. Can't do it alone, and it's rewarding in the long run. Don't think of what's best for you today and tomorrow. Think what's best for you 30 years from now as well.
Dude, you're giving me some great sound bites, Alex. And for someone who also is involved with a career that involves a lot of freelance work, crazy hours to create art, to entertain, inspire, and inform audiences, I know exactly what you mean. And especially in both my career paths as a podcaster and production, in working on sets and looking at various people, you hit the nail on the head. Is you have to really want it, and even when the odds are stacked against you, they're really not. If you really push, you really take the time to figure out how to take these methods. And again, just going back to the Mark Maron podcast, just hearing the various ideas I've heard of people making it just assures more that you really can do your passion, whether it's creating art or content, and make money off it. And obviously some people were born in different places, some got through nepotism, and then you've heard some people went from homeless, literal rags to riches. But I think really emphasize on being yourself, and someone will notice. There are opportunities out there. Even in this pandemic, there was still ways to break through, and coming out of it, there are more ways. And thank you, Alex, honestly, for just assuring that, to
I,
push
I,
that once
I wish
again.
everybody that takes my path, I wish them all the best of luck. It's like I said, it's arduous, it's difficult. There's dark days, there's bright days, but it's so tremendously rewarding. I wake up every morning with a great sense of responsibility, for things in my life, and that other people may not have, and I just value every day. So I want to, pass that along with everybody else listening, and you as well, Matt.
That means a lot, man. And I got your back for this. I'm in your corner the whole way. Please let me know when that day comes, when you book a date for the Bridgeport Art Gallery. As long as I'm free, I'll be there. In fact, that's
Yes,
where I'm getting
sir.
my second COVID vaccine this week. So I
It's
know
gonna be great.
Bridgeport very well. So, and that was just a great transition. Love learning about your artistry and the person you are, Alex. Let's talk about some sports, because I know you're a huge sports fan, and
Oh yeah,
let's show that side of you. So, where
sure.
do I start? Let's start with the baseball, and then we'll hit on the football and basketball, because I know you're
Sure.
huge sports with those. So, Alex, for people who don't know, Alex is mainly a LA sports fan, with the exception of his football team is the Los Angeles Raiders, but then we're California, and I'm
Yep.
really excited to talk about that. Well, let's talk about baseball first. Obviously, wearing the hat. How you feel about your Dodgers? They won the World Series last year.
Yep.
There's a crazy year. They're coming back hot with Trevor Bauer in. They've created this rivalry with the San Diego Padres, which is helping baseball get some assurance it really needs. And
Yep.
how you feeling about your team right now?
Yeah, man. It's pretty early, it's I feel like we're kind of par for the course, 17-13 on the year thus far. It's a long season, and I'm looking at the Giants at top of the division, and kind of where we're going. I'm a little concerned, with Mookie's little knick-knack injuries, and
Mm-hmm.
just kind of keeping an eye on that, and kind of managing him day to day with Dave Roberts and whatnot, with his staff. But I'm looking. The only disappointment I've had thus far, in this early season, is Corey Seeger, because actually going in, into the season after an amazing World Series run against the Rays, I had him, kind of taking that next step. I think it's his 6th year now in the league.
Yep.
Yeah, and he's only hitting 250 for the year. He's kind of a slow start, but I'm looking for him to take the next step towards possibly NL Player of the Year, kind of like Bellinger did the year before. So
Corey Seager, and yeah, I mean, really, he's an underrated power hitter. Obviously, hits for contact, insanely great fielder. I could see why not. So also just hitting on that too with the World Series. How did you feel? What was it like? Where were you during that final out, seeing the Dodgers' first World Series in 30 years? And in a COVID year too, of all the emotions. Talk to me about when they won the World Series, and what were you feeling, and where were you when this happened?
I was sitting tragically in despair at the edge of my seat at home,
Mhm.
with a couple of beers by my side, just kind of waiting. And after that debacle, I think it was Game 5 when they gave up the game-winning run
Yeah.
in the walk-off scenario. I just fell to my knees like I'd just been struck by lightning. I couldn't believe it, and I was just like, "This is the Dodgers, man. They're gonna break my heart again. They're gonna do it. They're gonna do it." But no, they stuck it out, and they pulled it through. I think Kershaw kind of had that flashpoint in his career where he really stepped over the top and took care of business. My only
Nice to see him
concern,
finally win it too.
yeah, man, he's been thrown with so much of that, animosity, and so much criticism, rightfully so, for better or worse, kind of like Peyton Manning did in his postseason
Mhm.
career, of just not getting over the hump and being the best at his position for so long. But I was really happy for him, and I think the only thing moving forward is really bolstering, some of that, that relieving pitching, and just
Mhm.
kind of, really, having the guys and the troops to really back him up, in another postseason run this year.
Yeah, see why not. And as you said, it is April, very competitive. And we mentioned the Dodgers and Padres rivalry. Now, as a Dodgers fan, do you welcome it? Do you think it's gonna be a
I love
fluke?
it, man.
You do love it.
I love it, man. You got to, rivalries aren't predicated on, I mean, they're predicated on history, but there's no reason they can't start, they can't pop up in the nick of time. I mean, we saw the Cavs Warriors and how successful that was, and
Yeah, right.
how that, how that brought in so much viewership and stuff amongst, fans and whatnot. So I always enjoy it. I love new storylines. I love new headlines, and yeah, I think it's great.
Look at that. And how you like it, Bauer? You happy with the pickup? You don't mind his do you mind his pitching with one eye sometimes, and his charismatic attitude? How you like Bauer on your squad?
Well, he's Hollywood, that's for sure, man. I think he fits right into the culture. I think as long as Dave Roberts can trust him, late in games, and not get him over the, too far, too late in the games with, too many pitches on that arm. Um, I'm not a big fan of the proposition of, today's game where, pitchers are, pitching every third, fourth night, but, it's the way it is that, these days they're getting a lot of money, and they want to protect their assets like any other business. So I understand it, but long story short, I'm been tremendously impressed with him, and look forward to how he handles the rest of the season.
Those damn analytics, Alex. But like you said, we can't avoid them anymore. So
Yep.
somehow embrace it.
Yeah.
So let's talk football now. Las
Oh boy.
Vegas Raiders fan. But I mean, first, like I said, when I met you, you were Oakland Raiders fan. Before we just get into
Oakland,
the
baby.
season, is it always the Oakland Raiders to you? Were you sad to see them move out of Oakland again, or are you excited with their Death Star looking stadium that's going to have people now, and you
Yep.
know the Davis family just doing what they can to make us laugh and trying, and now having Gruden. But before we get into this current Raiders, what did you think of the move to Vegas?
I mean, I understood it from a business standpoint. It's something that Mark Davis had in the works for years, trying to get out of Oakland, and the turf, with the Oakland Athletics, that it wasn't serving anybody better there. Um,
Right.
um, I understand it from a business standpoint, but it's tough swallowing, what you miss from the culture. I mean, I don't know if anybody knows anything about Oakland, but those are tough, gritty fans, man. They
Oh
love
yeah.
that team. They bleed silver and black. I've bled silver and black since I was a kid. I grew up with those Tim Brown, Jerry Rice, Rich Gannon teams.
Yeah.
The O2, the O2 the 01 Super Bowl team that went against Tampa,
Yep.
Gruden's nemesis, and so on and so forth. So I miss that tough grit, and I feel like they're going to lose some of that culture in the locker room moving forward. But I understand it from a business standpoint.
I see. I see. I hope you're planning to make a trip out there. You have to now with people out there. Do you think you'll see yourself within whether this year or within a few years to see the new place?
Yeah, man. It's funny you mentioned it. My first game, actually, my first NFL game of my life was last year, down at MetLife in Jersey, seeing the Jets Raiders, and of
Mhm.
course they laid an egg on an early 11 o'clock start here on the East
Oh,
Coast, so they didn't look too hot. But the whole stadium was Raiders fans, diehard Raiders fans, traveling as they do. So I was very pleasantly surprised and reassured that if I do go out west, that they're going to be there too. So I hope that things can return to normalcy and get to see a game for myself in that brand new freaking stadium, man.
yeah. And as you mentioned, and it's true, probably the hardest hitting, most passionate football fans is those Raider fans. And from all the places they've had to move and stuff like that, it was also they were once an LA Raiders team and won a Super Bowl in LA too. And it's
Look, man, you gotta be a devoted fan if you're gonna watch hot garbage for 18 years. Trust me. And that's why I really feel for those fans in Oakland, man. It's like they just got crapped on from 2002 to 2016, and as soon as
yeah.
they had a 12-4 season, and they looked like they were on the right path with Jack Del Rio. Of course, they get up and move. It's like, damn, man, that's heartbreaking.
Oh my goodness. And now focusing on this Raiders team, so many things. Last year they were 8-8. They did make a little bit of a push. Did you think anything could
Yeah.
happen? But came up a little short. Now we have full year. Now their full year. Excuse me. Now their first year with fans, they made some huge acquisitions. You get Kenyon Drake to be maybe 1-2 punch with Jacoby Jones. You have John Brown, who I think is one of the most underrated receivers. He really made a push for Buffalo
Yep.
last season. You have Solomon Thomas coming and Matt Dickerson on the pass rush. How do you feel about this Raiders team? And do you like your first round draft pick? Alex Leatherwood, the offensive tackle from Bama, hopefully getting some help for Derek Carr. How you
Yeah.
feeling about this Raiders team and Gruden?
Well, man, I feel bad for Alex Leatherwood because he's kind of thrusted into a no-win situation, man. Being the 17th overall pick is no slouch, and if you're going to protect Derek Carr, you better be good. It's tough, man. When you lose Gabe Jackson and
Mhm.
Rodney Hudson on that line, and for the record, they've been a top 5 offensive line for the past 5-6 years now, in my opinion.
Mhm.
And the numbers would probably back me up on that, but um, yeah, no, he's going to have to fill in and learn the ropes on the right side of the ball. I think that their offense is going to continue to keep clicking. I like Carr. I'm
Mhm.
not in love with Carr, but uh, I think he's the guy for the foreseeable future. And yeah, no, I mean, I've liked their weapons. I love Josh Jacobs. I like Jalen Richard. I like a lot of the schematic things that we can run in the backfield. And I know how Gruden knows how to coach offense, but man, it's hard to beat anybody when you're in shootouts and you can't stop a nosebleed in that secondary. And
Mhm.
they still haven't addressed the corner situation. I like the safety that they drafted in the second round, Trevon Moring, out of TCU, and I like
Yeah.
I like Malcolm Kunsane from Buffalo as well at the defensive end, but it's going to be tough with that secondary. I like to see how far of a next step Max Crosby and Cleveland Farrell take on that front line as well, because that front four has to get pressure on Mahomes and Justin Herbert for that matter if they're going to make any moves.
Yeah, and looking at your draft, mainly emphasize defense. Looks like out of 8 picks, they only picked 2 offensive positions, and I think that was also, as you mentioned, trying to get that other corner to in the secondary to add on to, a very, very, as you mentioned, you have the Chiefs in your division. You also have a rising Chargers team,
Yep.
and the Broncos are questionable, but you really need to make that push for that. But do you still feel, there's still a lot of time left until those OTAs and the season getting ready? Do you feel they'll address that problem? And I know in the GM and what's his name? Excuse me,
Mike Mayock.
Yeah, Mike Mayock,
Yep.
who's been his had his ups and downs, but again, made a big push at the end. How do you feel about the missing links and getting them?
Well, it's tough, man, because I haven't really seen Mike Mayock being able to, orchestrate things from a GM perspective in, trade and off-season acquisitions as much as I had hoped to, because
Right.
he's been so hamstrung and bound by the $100 million man in Gruden. And
Mm-hmm.
when I thought that they came together, when they, kind of co-aligned and came to Oakland a few years ago, I thought that Mayock was going to have sole responsibility of the draft, and that just hasn't been the case. And it's kind of showed itself, whiffing on all these picks when they traded Amari Cooper and Khalil Mack for all those
Mm-hmm.
picks. And, at a certain point, they're going to pay the price for it. And it's already kind of shown itself, with some of the some of the guys that they've missed in the draft with the secondary. So I think that Mayock's going to have to put a more centralized focus on, paying top dollar for some of those guys in the secondary and or just a veteran leadership type of corner, maybe try to get
Mm-hmm.
Richard Sherman from San Francisco. He's still out on the market as
Yeah,
far as I know. Get a veteran presence that can kind of command the room with those DBs.
gonna go a long way. And who doesn't want to play in that cool stadium in Vegas? Now, last point with this, I'm really interested to hear what you have to say, Alex. We all know the big news into the draft was not the draft itself, but Aaron Rodgers announcing his disdain for the Green Bay Packers. And it's been rumored that one of the places he would like to go to is your team in the Las Vegas Raiders.
Yep.
Are you open to that? Would you be down to having Rodgers, the MVP, you really could be a top NFC team right away with going off that 8-8 record. Do you
Yep.
think would you be open to that, changing everything, the whole plan for Rodgers once and for all? Would you like to rock that Rodgers jersey? And do you think there is a good chance that he can make it? I know also Denver is a possibility too.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, it's a matter of keeping Denver, at bay from acquiring him, because if you're playing against Mahomes, Herbert, and Rodgers twice a year, you're doomed. You're pretty much you're buried, in my opinion. I mean, look, this may just be willfully blind optimism as a Raiders fan, but you got to see a real glimmer of hope with them beating Kansas City, in
Yeah, their
Arrowhead
only
last
loss
year,
in the regular
and
season.
going down to the wire on the last possession in the game in Vegas on a Sunday night last year. I think we have the tools and all the mechanisms offensively to get it done and really become a playoff caliber team. But I would be more than willing to have Rodgers on, because I think I think the catalyst, I think what really showed itself last season was Brady going to Tampa.
Yeah.
Everybody, including Matt Light, the GM down in Tampa, going all in on him. Basically not even looking back, not looking at the year afterward ahead, and basically saying, we got 1 year to do it. And I think a lot of the NFL, with all the injuries involved, that a lot of these teams, especially like, the B-list cities and a lot of the non-major markets like New York and LA, they're desperate for, kind of a 3-year window gap to really make a move. And you're seeing it with Arizona and all the acquisitions and all their, everything they're throwing at Kyler Murray to really bolster him. I think a lot of these, second tier teams are really kind of following the same model, where they're basically going all in for 2 or 3 years with some of their acquisitions just to really have a shot.
Yeah, and I mean, well, it's working. It's
It's
working. And
working.
in other sports too. And it's funny, the league's on pause to see what they're doing with Rodgers. I shouldn't say that. I was gonna say, like, is he really gonna leave Green Bay? And you know what? Yeah, he doesn't really have much to prove on a legacy standpoint. I really think if you get that second Super Bowl, he's automatically one of the greats to ever do it if he cares enough. But obviously doing his thing with Jeopardy and having so many other interests. I wouldn't be surprised if Rodgers was like, yeah, I'll just want to do other things. And
It
I
depends on
heard
his
him.
aim.
Well, I'm sorry, you didn't hear that. What'd you say?
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I was just gonna say it depends on his aim because, like you
Yeah.
said, a lot of quarterbacks have won one Super Bowl, man. For better or worse, and it just depends on does he want to be in Brady's, discussion, his conversation with, with with uh with Elway and and Montana and those
Yep.
guys, some of the greats of all time, or does he want to stay, in the Breeze discussion with with a lot of other quarterbacks who have won, one Super Bowl. I don't mean to, you know, pick on Breeze, but that's just just a
Yeah.
case example.
No,
And
you're
I
exactly right.
and for me, what bothers me is that I can see the argument from both sides, from Rogers' perspective and from the organization's perspective, because they've always been a legacy organization. They're always drafting for the future. They're trying to stay
Hmm.
slow and steady to win the race. They've always been a constant contender as long as they've had Rogers. Minus the major shoulder surgery that
Yes.
he had 5-6 years ago. So I don't really buy into the belief that they haven't given him all the right necessary weapons and pieces to surround him to really make him successful. Um, I think at a certain point it just takes responsibility and ownership to say, hey, I'm 1-4 in NFC Championship games. What can I do better to close the deal? Because all year long we heard that, all right, he's finally got a home NFC Championship game. And what did he do with it? He let Brady come to town,
Yeah.
and it was close until the end, but he had the ball down the stretch, and they just couldn't convert. And LaFleur opted to take the field goal. I know it was controversial, but at a certain point, it just means that something's gotta change with Rodgers. There's got to be a certain level of accountability and responsibility, and I think he needs kind of that reflective period right now.
And I think you made a big point with Brady. If we really build around this guy, we could still win, and he can. Rodgers is I think 6 years younger than him and still has that much time too. And I think Brady's won 4 Super Bowls past 35. And
Insane.
Rodgers has just as much talent to do that. And even, I think Brady's the best winner, but on pure talent, Rodgers is a better quarterback on pure talent. He knows how to be mobile. I mean, we've seen he has an accurate arm, and far too. And yeah, I think if there's a team who will do that, and I think your crazy head coach at Gruden would take that challenge on, he could totally get that final Super Bowl. If not, too, I also feel like he'll just be a celebrity with his, famous fiance too, and be a Jeopardy host, which I don't know if you saw. I thought he was great in it.
I
And
thought he was, but I don't want to slight the great Alex Trebek,
oh, of
God rest his
course,
soul, because he brought an amazing lively energy to TV that you can't duplicate if you're not in
you can't.
TV. And I know that as a content creator yourself. So I think it just, I don't know, man. I want my quarterback to be all in. It's such a short shelf life as an athlete, and I want you to be all in until the fat lady sings.
Yeah, and Carr's been there a while now, and he has to do it once and for all. We've seen, made that real big push a few years ago until he got hurt. So why not? Why not? And it's gonna be fun. It's gonna be a fun time indeed. Now
Gruden
let's
wants his guy. He wants his quarterback, and I think him and Rogers would be a mutual relationship. It would be one of built on respect and high hopes, because I think, and I don't mean to get off too much off subject, but
I encourage it, man.
we're riffing for a minute. It's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think they kind of caught him by surprise hiring LaFleur. Getting that call from the GM, just not even really inquiring with him the same way Russell Wilson's had issues with Seattle, with the front office and so on and so forth. Not really responding to the wishes and demands of Rodgers to an extent about the hiring. That rubs guys the wrong way. They don't forget that, and I think that having a coach like Gruden would be immensely immensely helpful for Rodgers to kind of have a nice, great run before he's done.
Yeah, and he's got the talent to do it, and it's going to be quite the game to see. So let's transition to basketball really quick.
Mm-hmm.
Alex, you are the biggest, absolute biggest Los Angeles Laker fan I know. and I know lots of LA Laker fans from LA, and you take the you take the crown for that. And again, before we get to the current Lakers team and what they've been up to, talk to me how you be your Lakers fandom. I really think that defines you. Often see you rocking throwback Laker jerseys. Talk to me about your fandom with the Lakers in particular. It seems
Yeah, I
like
mean,
a special aspect of you, so would love to hear more about it.
sure, man. Yeah, I mean, it was kind of the basis ethos of kind of going back to that California brand with my artwork and so on and so forth. It was kind of the systemic approach that I took as a kid. Like I
Mhm.
grew up with Kobe and Shaq, loved them to death, loved those
Yep,
teams with
absolutely.
Derek Fisher and Rick Fox and Robert Ory, Brian Shaw, the whole cast and crew with Phil Jackson and
Oh yeah.
Frank Hamblin, Jim Clemens. I could go on and on with that freaking with that roster, man. But yeah, it was a great run. It was a great way to kind of, you know, grow up learning about basketball. I played it in high school, played in junior high, loved it, from a peripheral standpoint in college as well, and continue to love it. Um, yeah, it's always been a profound part of my life. I've kind of when Kobe passed away, it was such a hard thing for me to kind of swallow and conceptualize, and it was really hard to watch basketball for the years after, up until now, because I mean we're in our mid 20s. We grew up with Kobe. I mean,
Yeah.
we grew up with AI. We grew up
Back
with
right
Vince
there, one of
Carter.
many pictures with Shaq and Kobe.
Right. We grew up with, AI and T-Mac and Vince Carter, all those guys, man. So it's a little
It
different
was a good time,
relationship
man.
we have with these new cats, like with, even with the guys who have been in the league, like Katie and Harden. It's not the guys we grew up with from a childhood. So it was hard for me to kind of reconcile that, but I love the game now still. These guys have never been, I mean, the NBA has never been a more skilled league in its entirety and its history.
Yeah,
Um,
it's something
I
else, huh?
love I love the international flair. Some of the players I really love, right now that I follow outside of the Lakers, like I love Lillard, I love Damian Lillard. Um,
Oh yeah, it's the
he,
clutchest player we got.
man, he is one baller, dude. He's unbelievable. I
He's
mean,
a fun
I
rapper
just
too.
yeah,
Oh
he's a culture setter, man. He's one of those guys you want to rally around and believe in. I love Jokic. I really love
yeah,
Jokic from a skills standpoint. He's really just like a big fundamental. He's kind of a reincarnation of Timmy D,
yeah,
in my opinion.
with a
And he
great
really,
shot too. He
yeah,
could score.
yeah, he's got a little Dirk in him. He's got a little Tim Duncan. I like Luca, but he's got some growing up to do, especially from a leadership standpoint, 3-point shooting, free throw shooting. But yeah, no, I think the league's never been in a better place from an entertainment standpoint. But my Lakers this year, man, it's
Yeah,
different, man. Injuries have kind of riddled us. I'm looking at sitting at the 5 seed right now. A game
yep.
back out of the 7 seed. It's a slippery slope that we're kind of running on down the stretch here, and I think it's a really critical time to get some reps in with AD and Drummond and LeBron back on the floor healthy together. They're going to need those reps. It's kind of the same problem that that Brooklyn's going to have going in, into the playoffs in short order. So we'll see.
That's what I wanted to ask, Alex. As a hardcore basketball fan, now are we in an era now we've seen whether it's injuries, load management, which you're not allowed to say in the press, the NBA said, or you'll get fined, break that stigma. You know, do you feel that it's just a matter about getting in the playoffs and then you go from there? Is it truly we're at the point where we're just like fuck the regular season? As long as we're in, we're in. But you have now the playing games too. So really you're not secure until you get to the sixth spot. You don't want to play around with that. Do you feel that that's the trend at the moment? And like you mentioned, the Lakers are in the fifth seed, but right
Mhm.
behind them is the Mavs. Then you have the Blazers right there, and then the Warriors have been
Yep.
surprising with now and Grizzlies and Spurs. Do you feel this is just the way it's gonna be? And do you like it or dislike it? And we know LeBron said LeBron just tweeted yesterday or something like, whoever came up with this is a stupid idea.
Well, he's
But
flip floppy. He's flipping on everything. I don't trust what he puts out.
yeah, I saw that PP said a few years ago that this is something they should do. I've just overheard the radio, and then he just went back to it because he might be affected from it. So,
Right. Right.
what do you think about this in this interesting playoff bracket system?
Well, it's it's a TV experiment. It's all about money. Adam Silver's made
Yeah.
it very clear since he took office off of Stern. God rest his soul as well.
Oh yeah.
That they were gonna it was gonna be a marketing endeavor for the foreseeable future. And all these guys have their own following, their own brands, their own shoe deals. So I understand it from an individual standpoint as well as a collective standpoint from the NBA shareholders' perspective about putting these play-ins into actuality. But I just think it's so stupid. It's like you've had 72 plus games to prove your positioning in the playoffs. I don't think you don't need to reprove it again.
Right.
I think it's a slight to the teams that did make it. I think it's unfair to the teams that are sitting on the peripheries of the playoff picture. And I'm not a huge fan of the proposition. Now, with that being said, I think there's great potential to it. You get to see some new faces in contention, like New Orleans and
The Grizzlies is interesting to see with what John
the
Morant's
Grizzlies
building
won.
there.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, he did get ejected the other night. We'll see. We'll see what happens. I do like Ja as well. His intangibles are great, but he's got some maturing to do. But yeah, I mean, I don't know, man. We'll see. I think when you talk about home court advantage, it's obviously mitigated with no fans in the stands. So I think that the temporal situation with home court advantage being a top 4 seed in the conferences, I think that's going to be mitigated until fans kind of re-enter the picture.
Yeah.
I think the mentality will change when fans get it back in the stands to people taking the regular season more seriously. But there is a lot of honor to taking the regular season very seriously. I mean, even if you don't believe in Utah and Denver and Phoenix, getting those reps and developing continuity between the young guys and the veterans in the locker room, that's huge for those teams if they want to make a big push.
And why not for it? And it's just any way to create that spark. And I mean, I know you don't want to hear this, but there could, if say that there's a play-in situation and the Lakers fall, you could still have a Warriors Lakers play one game playoff. That would be insane. I'm sure that you get the heart out with LeBron, and but I think that that's some other crazy possibilities that could come out of it.
Yeah, and I think that's what I think that's where a lot of the anger and frustration from LeBron's coming from. I don't think it's coming from the original stance he took back at the beginning of the year under the presumptions of an 82 game season. I think he's more looking at the realities of having, a broken team, developing continuity on the fly. This is not the same team that won the championship a year ago.
Yeah.
Rondo's gone, a lot of moving parts, a lot of 3-and-D guys new to that roster. Wesley Matthews, Marcus Gasol, so on and so forth. So it's not the same team, and I think that it kind of terrifies him that the season could be predicated on a 1-game finality between him and the Warriors, and knowing how seasoned and how much of an assassin Steph is, and having that continuity with Kerr and Draymond and all those guys on the roster, I think it's a little threatening to teams that have something to lose.
Oh yeah. Now, do you feel the Lakers can make a push despite all these issues? We have a few weeks to go. Yeah, as this is being recorded, there's only 2 more weeks of the season after that.
Right.
Do you think that they can make another deep run, get that defend that championship? LeBron getting that 5th ring. Oh man, how do you feel about that? About the Lakers' playoff chances?
I mean, yeah, whenever you have LeBron, you got a great shot, and
Right.
it's cliche at this point, but it still reigns true. I think there's so much uncertainty at the top with Utah and Phoenix and Denver. We just don't know what they're going to bring. I mean, Jamal Murray being out for the season, that's huge. Donovan Mitchell and
Yeah.
Gobert, are they going to take the next step? I think there's a lot of vulnerability with the top seeds, so I don't doubt that LA can make a play, the deep playoff push and return to where they were a year ago. But it's going to take continuity. It's going to take health. It's going to take great situational basketball with Vogel and the rotation, and figuring out what his guys can bring to the table at the right time, and figuring out the rotation and who's hot. If
Mhm.
Kuzma gets on a run, or Taylor Horton Tucker, if they start
Schroeder
playing out of their
too.
mind, it's like you may have to shake up that roster.
Yeah, this is the deciding factor. And if LeBron wants to hit that, if he wants to get some momentum for Space Jam 2, this is a good time. And excited for
I can't
that.
wait to see that movie, man.
Me too, bro.
I
It's
can't
gonna
wait.
be fun. And just for selfish reasons, how about my Knicks, Alex? My
I'm
team
glad
has
you
the
brought
same
it up.
records. My team has the same record as your team as we're recording. They're playing tomorrow night, Knicks Lakers.
Yeah.
How about that with the just yeah, man. It's been a great time. It's funny how we're ending the pandemic and the Knicks are the best team in town, the most talked about, and we have the Brooklyn Nets. But
Right.
they're just how can you not how can you not like this team, what they've proven? I mean, they were supposed to have the over-under was 22.5. We're at 37. That's 15 plus. How about the Knicks, man? I just want to hear just as a basketball fan. How do you feel about the Knicks resurgence, the resurrection?
Dude, let me tell you, man. Having the first winning season in 7-8 years, I
Yeah.
cannot be happier for you guys. Like,
Thanks,
it's
man.
such a great story. The roster, the way it's constructed, it's so New York. It's just tough, gritty. It's selfless basketball. It's the way it was built back in the 90s. And
Oh, yeah. That's what everyone's been saying. 90s Knicks feel.
yeah, man, it's just they're tough, gritty guys that have things to prove. And I just love how the young guys have responded to Thibodeau, because that was really the one
Oh,
factor.
my God.
That was the one huge question, kind of overarching this team going into the season. I mean, of course, no one had real serious expectations. I mean, I would safely say that going into the season. Fair. But the way they've positively responded to his schematics and how he's brought a new energy to the table, I just cannot be happier for Knicks fans. I mean, Julius Randle looks like another play. He looks like a new player, man.
Yeah, he was on your team at one point. I don't mean to bring it up. If it cringes you, let me know. But yeah. I mean, how about that?
It's another one of Magic Johnson's fatal flaws as a GM, man. Those jobs are so demanding. You can't have 1 foot in, 1 foot out of that position in an operation. And I love Magic Johnson, but you just can't do it.
It's been a tough stretch for him, but still pulling through. But oh my God, Alex, this Knicks, it's been such an insane time. And that 2012, 2013 team, which was another special team in my heart because I watched all those games, deep playoff run. Well, not deep. I mean, deep for us, but beating the Celtics, then running into Roy Hibbert ended it all. I remember watching that fatal game with 2 of my friends from school. We were wearing our Knicks jerseys and seeing the Roy Hibbert block. It's nightmares, and we really went downhill from there. I mean, the disgusting, absolutely disgusting, the disgusting head coaches we had, from Derek Fisher to Fizdale to Jeff Hornacek to Kurt Rambis, and then Tom Thibodeau as the one to have us play defense, to have us play in team basketball. It makes me feel like when you watch the team, it feels like you're watching a college, like a great college team, because you see so many passings, so much passing. The threes are beautiful. I mean, look at what Emmanuel Quickly's turning into, and RJ Barrett, people ready to throw him out of town. Kevin Knox can't go out of town. I don't mind that. But Julius, obviously, like you said, Julius Randle turning into a top 15 player. He has to be. You were saying?
Alfred Payton too.
Yes, Alfred Payton's with their resurgence. And D Rose turning back the class. Nerlens Noel. People just thought he was washed up from Denver, and we sadly lost Mitch Robinson, but I'm just like how many blocks he's getting, and just oh my God,
it's good energy, man. Just good energy. That's what Thibodeau is imbued in these young guys. It's just it's the belief that it's a collective. It's one. It's one mission, one opportunity, one goal, and the fact that he's been able to get these guys impressionable and bought in has just been unbelievable.
And the big thing, I really think they can really win the first round the way they've been playing. And this, 12 for the last 13 against really good teams from the Mavs. And then, beating the Mavs, beating the Grizzlies, beating the Hawks, who we've been fighting with the playoffs, almost beating the Suns until Chris Paul went off. But, I mean, it's what a time. And, I've loved this team dearly. And it's funny. The one soundbite when the playoffs are clinched, there's just so many people saying the Knicks suck to me. it's like I said, jokes on them, and it's a great time. And now you really wish they could keep this team going into next year. And we always thought about who's going to be the one to lead it.
Yep.
And, the summer 18 or 19 with KD and Kyrie decided to go to Brooklyn and we signed Julius Randle. I remember everyone saying, oh, this is our big signing, huh? And then, yeah, it was. He deserves being anointed that. And we'll see what the future brings, bringing that one. We may still need that one more asset, that star, but our team's really growing, especially with the young guys in RJ and Quick. So
It always felt with the Knicks that they always had the horses before the carriage, or vice versa. Pardon the expression, but I felt like they were always kind of saying, we trust the process. We got, we got the cap space, we got the foundation. It's like, but they never had it, and now they're actually embodying the groundwork put in place, kind of like, you know, like the Brooklyn Nets did last year, and the Warriors before they got KD. A lot of these teams when they were on the doorstep to take the next step, they're actually doing it, and I think that's what's so exciting about the Knicks and their potentiality.
notice how people are complaining about Dolan for the past 4 months.
He's getting a pass for now, man, but he's still reprehensible in my opinion.
Very much. You're right. You're definitely right with that. And stay quiet as this team has been shooting up. I see Stephen A psyched for the first time about the Knicks. And yeah, we're playing with true house money. And hey man, you never know. 2023, Zion Williamson's a free agent with the Pelicans really getting imploding. Maybe Lonzo Ball, he's a free agent this summer. Maybe he could be, you know, could be the starting point guard and add more to his, great in the assist department and defense. So what a time. And it's gonna be a fun game tomorrow though. Your team for a spy team. And maybe one day we'll get to see very soon a Knicks Lakers finals. Our only 2 finals wins are against your team.
Yeah.
And you did beat us another time too. So let's do it again.
I love it, man. Let's do it.
Yo. Oh man, Alex, it's been so much fun talking around an hour and a half with you. There's just one last thing we have to do before we sign off. And I really hope you'll want to come back again, Alex, because you've been exactly what I hope for in a guest, with just great stories and energy.
Thank you, man. I appreciate it. I can't wait to be back on the podcast.
Oh, seriously. We definitely have to talk during the NBA playoffs too. Bring Alex Young in and we'll go geek out on that stuff.
I love Alex Young. Shout out to my man.
Oh, definitely. Definitely. Yeah, we'll definitely get a basketball one in there. It's like as the playoffs progress and stuff. So
love it.
I end everything with the Proust questionnaire, the first appearance that is. So it's from inside the actor studio. I don't know if you're familiar with it or not, but I'm just gonna ask you 10 questions. They're not rapid, so you don't have to answer anything like that, but they're just 10 short but deep questions, and I'm sure you have great things to say in this. So I'm excited to see what you're gonna answer. So are you ready for the Proust questionnaire, Alex?
Fire away, my friend.
All right. First, fire away with that. So, what's your favorite word?
Traverse.
Traverse. All right. Why traverse?
I think it's got a lot of implications. It's open-ended. I don't know. It's just an interesting word. I like it.
I like it too. Good answer. What's your least favorite word?
No.
Yeah. As in yes, I agree with you. Don't let no put you down.
No and can't. I'm just saying can't. I love the word. I love saying yet, because yet kind of reaffirms, it changes your position. Like, I'm not there yet. I'm not saying no.
And hear that. Now, this question is more of a fulfilling question, not a sexual question that some may assume, but this is more of a life fulfillment question. What turns you on in this world?
Opportunity.
Great word. What turns you off in this world?
Just hate. Narrow-mindedness. not willing to take in new information and learn, because life is about learning, man. Life is suffering, and the more you can mitigate it and create relationships with people and learn, that's the best way to resolve it.
Amen to that. Couldn't have said it any better. What sound or noise do you love?
I love a cat's meow. I'm a cat guy. I love cats, man.
Oh yeah, me too. It is a sweet. Except when they yell at you. But besides that,
they're moody.
You enjoy that. What sound or noise do you hate?
Sound do I hate? Probably my sleep alarm.
Yeah, the iPhone alarm, forever in our minds as a time for us to get annoyed.
Yeah, I never liked that one.
What's your favorite curse word?
My shithead.
That's the first one, actually. No one said that yet.
Shithead.
I don't know. Good one.
It's phonetically good. I like. It's got meaning to it.
You could probably sneak it in a PG movie.
Yeah. Or just being able to say, like, shut up, stupid.
What profession?
Like that too.
I hear you there. What profession other than your own or the multiple ones that you partake in would you like to attempt?
I mean, someday in the near future, because I'm reading and writing a lot, I would like to be like a sports journalist or a psychologist.
Oh, you'd be awesome at those, both of them.
Yeah, mutually exclusive, but yeah.
Oh, I can't wait till those articles come out or stories. I'm definitely gonna read. What profession would you not like to do?
Politics.
Tell me about it.
Ever.
That's assuring. You know, how can you? If for those people who do have a passion for it, it's awesome. But for me, I'm just like, man, I could be nervous the rest of my life. Would I do this or that? Boy. So
I'm not someone who likes to telegraph utopian ideas. I like to enact them and embody things I would like to do in my everyday life.
Absolutely. And you don't want to divide people by choosing a side either,
I've never been of the mindset of telling people what to do. I'd rather people live individualistically as they would like to be as a sovereign individual. And that's just always been my baseline of fundamental beliefs. So
damn straight right there, Alex. And my last question for today, if heaven exists, what would you like to hear God say to you when you arrive at the pearly gates?
I would like him to say, you did a good job down there.
Beautiful. And you're definitely on your way for doing that, Alex. Alex, tell us one more time where we can find your work and the Going Places Artist Collective.
So you can find us both mutually on Instagram, as well as Facebook, Going Places _Art Collective, and on Instagram as well. My personal handle is AB Ranniello on Instagram and Alexander, California on Facebook.
All right. Excellent. Well, Alex, is there anything else you want to say before we sign off?
I want to wish everybody a great week and go tackle life with everything you got. Go get it.
That's what I'm talking about, Alex. Alex Ranniello, thank you so much for a great appearance. Thank you so much for a great time. You're the man. Love you, bro. And I can't wait to talk to you again for this. Thank you so much for a great appearance, my friend. And I will see you very, very soon. We have so much more to catch up and talk about. And you let me know once you book that gallery event in Bridgeport. I'll not only plug it here, but as long as I'm free, I'll be there to say what's up. And, if you're around this summer too, we're both in this state. We'll love to figure out one somehow, some way. You've been to my house before, so
yeah, man.
We could definitely figure something out. I'll be in touch with that too.
We'll check it out, man. Hey, thank you. I want to thank you for your time and your leadership on the podcast, man. And I appreciate you taking the time to reach out to me and talk. It's been great.
My absolute pleasure, Alex. This is even better than I expected, and was very happy to do it, and it exceeded my expectations. So you're the man
Likewise.
for a reason. So can't wait to do this again, my friend, and I'll talk to you really soon.
You too, man. Take care.
That's a great Alex, everybody.